So this is a key fob, which I will cut out one of these for all of you in white or black, basically. And here you can see that I have done running stitch to do the letter D, following the charts that I made for the alphabet for doing the thin embroidery. And then I've done back stitch all the way along here, but you could also do just a stitch, single stitch down, and then loop up to the stitch next side. The back always looks quite messy. Well, it does on mine. Some people make them look great, but I'm not one of those people. On this side I have done back stitch for the H, and I have done the very traditional so I try and get that so you can see it, the sideways stitch that they do, half cross stitch as they call it. I don't recommend the half cross stitch for people who are just beginning. It's a little bit harder. And then you'll want to sew together the sides. So now one of the challenges with what we've got available is that this is what's called 7 count canvas, and if I use a single thread it's not quite enough, and if I use double it's a lot. And there have been times when I've been trying to undo a thread or something, or put too many stitches in one hole, and I've broken the plastic canvas, which of course is really annoying. So just do be careful, but most of the time you are going to need 2 strands in order to cover it properly. So for the overcast stitch, you're going to put your stitch, sorry, I really can't get this, come from the back into the front. Ah, there we go, there we go. Can you see that? It's very difficult to show it, which I think is why you're going to be best looking at other videos. I'll just talk you through some of the bits in the craft kit. I have put a whole lot of links to other videos that are good. Now you don't want your thread to be too long because it'll get knotted, but if it's too short then you're changing thread all the time, which is just annoying. So again, I'm going to go into the next stitch along. I'm going to put it through both pieces, and I'm going to pull. Now you don't want your wool knotted around it, that will give you a different stitch. So you want the rest of your thread to be hanging down, and you're going to pull. Once you get more used to it, I find it useful just to have my fingers on this to stop a knot forming, but when you first start that'll be a bit tricky. I'm going to do it again. Take my needle, go in from the front, make sure I go through both sides, and also I'm trying not to split the wool on the other side. Again, for the younger kids they're not going to be able to think about this, but if you've done a bit more sewing then you can certainly think about this. So it's gone through both sides. I'm going to pull. I've got my finger in to stop a knot forming, and basically you're going to do that stitch all the way along the side, which will join it together and give you a nice neatly finished product. Now I haven't, normally you would finish sewing this, but I haven't got time to do that. I've been trying out all sorts of different things and there really hasn't been time to finish it, and the same with this. Now obviously if you wanted your key fob to be shorter you could cut off the bottom, and again maybe for some of the younger kids that's what you want to do, or you can just leave the letter without any background stitching. I will recommend, and I will provide some, putting a background if you don't fill in the stitches, because basically as you can see right through and it doesn't look that wonderful. So in this one I have put basically one of those non-woven bags that you now get instead of plastic bags. I put 2 layers of that because one layer was too see-through, but that has basically covered up most of the mess that was visible. Okay, And as you can see, this one I didn't do stitching on the rest of it. You can see that there are some bits where the stitching, you might not be able to see it on this. I've got some photographs that I'll upload. Yeah, you can just see areas where bits of the back stitching has shown through. So that is the issue of not doing stitching all over. But it's not too bad. And again, for the younger kids, this is just a way to help them to start sewing and to produce something quite quickly. And it's much easier than working with normal fabric. You don't have to stitch around the tops up here. If you stitch around the top, you must do it single layer, because we're going to put our keyring ring bit into here, and I will be providing those. So make sure that you don't stitch it together, because you won't, well, you'll be able to get it in, but it'll be very difficult. So you want to keep this as a loop. I was following a different alphabet. This is not the alphabet, just in case you're wondering. This is a 6 wide, and the alphabet that I've provided is 5 wide, and the 6 wide doesn't work with 9 squares across, because you end up with it not sitting in the middle is the biggest problem. Whereas with 9 across and 5 stitches, you'll have 2 empty spaces on either side, and it looks nicely centered. This is just using a long stitch, so you literally just go from one point to another and then just keep going until you've got this kind of flower look.